Fazan, we can start, I think. So we have a good number of participants as of now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Mr. Kamal, you will start, right?
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone. On behalf of Excelia Training Institute, with the collaboration with Harvard, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to today's webinar on AI, cybersecurity, and operational resilience. As you all know that nowadays, artificial intelligence, AI, is transforming the way organizations operate, make decisions, and deliver services. At the same time, this rapid digital transformation is currently is creating new cybersecurity challenges and increasing the importance of operational resilience. This is particularly relevant in Saudi Arabia as the kingdom continue its ambiguous digital transformation under Vision 2030. With increasing adoption of AI, cloud technologies, data-driven platforms, and digital services across both government and private sectors. At Excelia, our objective goes beyond conducting training programs. We want to create a platform where industry expertise, emerging technologies, professional development, and the future workforce skills come together. I believe through such webinar, we aim to help students understand the future career opportunities, support professionals in upgrading their capabilities, and enable organizations to better understand the technologies and skills required for the next generation of digital transformation. We are privileged to have our distinguished speaker, Mr. Osama Abdullah, with us today. I'm confident that this session will provide valuable insights into artificial intelligence in changing cybersecurity, what emerging risk organizations should prepare for, and how operational resilience can be strengthened in an increasingly AI-driven environment. I encourage everyone to actively participate, share your questions, and make the most of this opportunity. Once again, thank you to our speaker for sharing your expertise, and thank you to everyone who has joined this evening. Over to Mr. Faizan. Thank you.
Well, hello everyone. This is Faizan Ahmed. I'm the Director Technology Risk Advisory and the Group CISO for AJMS Global. And it is a pleasure to have you all in this session. Thank you, Mr. Kamaluddin, for the wonderful introduction, and thank you, Mr. Osama, for blessing us with your precious time. So let's start off with the discussion on what exactly is AI, cybersecurity, and operational resilience, and then we will slightly move into discussion with our speaker. I'll just give a slight startup, and then definitely it's Mr. Osama's uh, time that we would want the maximum to shed the light on all these things. So AI is the emerging field of technology. Everybody is knowing, everybody is talking about. Cybersecurity is the core area which actually protects your information, and operational resilience is the bare minimum requirement for every organization to continue its work. These are the three core topics that interrelate in today's world. Now, these are some of the contents that we'll be discussing today in this session, starting off with AI powered cybersecurity, then slightly focusing on the telecom cybersecurity, then moving deep into Saudi cybersecurity and data governance. After that, discussing how the threats are detected and how the incidents are responded. Then going more into the detail how the operational resilience is managed in this age, in this era, and then giving our detailed uh, verdict on what future ready telecom security should look like. If we can please move further to the next slide. Yeah, so starting off, the very first question that I have from Mr. Osama is, sir, almost every security product on the market right now advertises AI. Everybody is talking about AI. Everybody is focused on AI. Now, in simple terms, what is AI actually doing inside a security team? Is it helping stopping attacks? It is helping in alerting. What is it able to do? What is it not able to do right now? If you can please shed some light on that.
Well, first, Faizan and Mr. Kamal, thank you very much for having me. It's my complete privilege to be here in this webinar today. Very quickly, my name is Osama Al Abdallah. I am the founder and chief executive of Technology AI Consulting in Kuwait. I have been in the private sector in Kuwait for well over 26 years, primarily in the financial sector and in the telco sector. I have had the pleasure of working with some of the founders of some of the largest organizations in Kuwait. I started my own firm after a firm belief that entrepreneurship is really the most rewarding venture that one can go into, and one that requires a lot of rigor and lots of challenges. And this brings us to one of the biggest challenges of today's world when we talk about AI-powered cybersecurity. And what I'd like to mention in the very beginning is that when we talk about cybersecurity today, we are not just talking about the organization perspective of cybersecurity, but remember that the hacker perspective is also quite enriched with the advent of artificial intelligence, because hackers out there can use artificial intelligence today to mastermind new attacks and new very insidious ways of attacking your organization or doing social engineering. It's very scary what hackers can do today. So AI-powered cybersecurity is the craft of applying artificial intelligence into machine learning to secure data, identify threats, detect abnormalities, and also accelerate and prioritize the risks and investigations while maintaining human oversight. And if you guys have been in the previous session yesterday, that is something that you will keep hearing, maintaining the human oversight. So one of the things for why AI is very critical for telecom cybersecurity is the amount of data that we're dealing with today is humongous. Also, the high-speed threats. So cyber attacks can evolve very rapidly with the use of AI. So it can actually help you, but it can also work against you in the wrong hands. There is also the attack surface today has become very complex, especially when you consider things like 5G, cloud, edge, APIs, IoT. It really adds a lot of complexity to the overall ecosystem, and therefore AI becomes very critical for cybersecurity to not just secure, but also to learn the behavior and the things that can actually come your way. Alert overload is another thing that security teams are faced with today, and making intelligent prioritization is essential for focusing on genuine risk and filtering out all the noise. And that is something I'm sure that you have seen, in the traditional sense that, there's a lot of noise a lot of the time. The false positives are quite a bit, especially when you're adopting a new system. Behavioral threats as well, and faster incident response. So those are the reasons, the main reasons. Of course, there are a lot more reasons, but those are probably the highlight or the focus of why AI is very important in telco specifically. Now, the cybersecurity framework the cybersecurity AI-powered framework really resides on 5 pillars. It stands on those 5 grounding factors: the security and telemetry, the AI threat detection, the intelligence, the AI-assisted response, and the governance and human oversight. So one of the most important things is to validate your models, protect the data, manage your automation risk, and keep accountable human decisions. So the AI, again, I've said this many times, I think in many of the lectures that I gave, is that the AI drafts, the AI gives you the options or the decisions, but you should always, the human eye should always interrogate and decide if this is indeed the best course of action. So the AI drafts, the human verifies. Now, there are a lot of high value cases that we can look at when it comes to telecom, especially when we're looking at security, telecom security. One would be network anomaly detection, and these are, of course, non-exhaustive lists of AI cases. Another one is the identity and UEBA, detecting abnormal behavior, administering privilege account behavior, and things like lateral movements and all of that, all of these threats. Threat intelligence enrichment, correlating external threats with internal telemetry for faster context. SOC, alert triage, phishing and malware analysis, incident investigation. Now, all of these AI use cases are things that you are probably doing, and there are probably dedicated organizations and dedicated systems that can do it. So why is really AI has been really the subject that's been talked about. The reason being is the efficiency of the AI models. It's the speed at which you can achieve the same result. So if you have, for example, you have a team that's sitting and monitoring, that monitoring can be then given to the AI. It is far more productive. It's a lot faster, but it always needs the human oversight to ensure that you filter out the false positives. Other AI security risk and human oversight that we can probably introduce at this point. AI can, without a doubt, improve security operations, but uncontrolled use can introduce additional risks, things like poor data quality. Incomplete or biased data can reduce detection quality. False positives, which we just talked about. AI output must be validated before high impact action. Model and prompt manipulation. This is probably very, very dangerous because without the proper guardrails in place, this can cause detrimental damage to the organization, both in terms of its operations and also reputational damage. Sensitive data exposure, that's something, again, that's very important. So security and customer data requires control handling. And by the way, when we're talking about AI security, generally speaking, not just for telcos, things like data classification becomes extremely critical for the organization. So that is probably one of the main things that you should think about before you even start anything with AI. If you are going that route and you want to start adopting AI into your organization. I hope that answers your question, Faizan.
Well, sir, it does, and it pretty much solves majority of the problems that we were trying to address in the cybersecurity powered AI powered cybersecurity, and this helps us. This answer actually elaborates most of the topics that we wanted to discuss. Now, there is just one more question on the AI, and I would want your opinion on it. It's not, it won't be a detailed answer required, but just your opinion. Now,
Okay.
criminals right now, the adversaries, the criminals, the bad actors, they also have the same access as the defenders do. Like being in the group CISO of the AGMS group, I myself have the same access to the AI as well as the adversaries or the hackers, all those people have. Now, what do you believe? Whether it is the advent of AI and the innovations in AI is helping more the criminals or the defenders? What do you believe?
That's a really good question. Um, it's a
Yeah.
tough look, it's a tough question to answer. I'll tell you why. Because I firmly
Mm-hmm.
believe that everything in our life, it can be
Mm-hmm.
used in a good way and can be used in a bad way. And putting things, for example, if you put medication, a certain anesthetic
Mm-hmm.
in the hands of a doctor, The doctor can use it to perform, surgical operations and alleviate the pain, from the patient. But then if you give it to somebody who's trying to make money, then he will start selling the anesthetic as, as a drug. And therefore the
Yeah.
use becomes, very, very harmful. And I think AI and any other, sort of technology, it can be exactly used the same way. We've seen throughout life that technology can be applied to better human life, but it can be also used to build atomic and nuclear bombs and kill people. So I think to answer your question, I think it really depends on how it's used and who has access to it and to what extent. And I think it remains the responsibility of those who are the adopters of AI and the providers of large language models and small language models for that matter to ensure that there are sufficient safeguards in those models to make sure that no harmful use is permitted uh, through the use of artificial intelligence.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your great response. Now let's move forward to the part two, which is telecom cybersecurity. And so my next question is regarding the 5G networks. Now, everywhere what we see in the entire GCC, 5G, the telecom service providers are running in a race to provide better and better quality, better and better data services, better and better network capabilities. Now, just to understand, so that our audiences can also understand, now newer 5G technologies are built very differently from the old ones. They are have more software, they have less hardware. Now, for someone who isn't an engineer, why does that shift make security harder? Why is the security part getting harder altogether?
Well, Faizan, I think specifically why is it getting harder is because of the increased complexity. So if you look, for example, at the 5G and mobile networks, secure 5G core radio access networks, you protecting record with APIs, the control network slicing and interconnections, things like the cloud, virtualized infrastructure, IoT, and connected devices. All of these, even SOC and security operations, so centralizing your security monitoring, things have gotten very complex. And like you just said, the variety and the depth, the breadth and the depth of the attacks, of the security attacks, has really evolved and they have become very sophisticated. Phishing attacks, for example, in the past, the human eye would be very competitive in detecting what would be a phishing attack, right? But today, what you're seeing is next level, and that next level can be applied on the networks, on cloud, on the IoT and connected devices. But I'd like actually to since you are quite versed into the telco and specifically in Saudi, Faizan, I'd like your take on where telecom security gets complex in terms of 5G, cloud, IoT, and APIs for that matter.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing the stage with me. It's a great honor. So I had been in this cybersecurity and technology risk landscape for the last 15 years, I would say. And while in my journey, I have come across and reviewed and conducted many security configuration reviews for telecom service providers in GCC and in other countries as well. I will just give an example of one of the telecom service provider in which we conducted a detailed security review. Won't be naming the client, but definitely just to give an example. One telecom service provider had more than 15 million calls in a day. So when you are doing the security review of 15 million calls, ensuring that all calls are connected completely and accurately, all calls are billed accurately, and there are no man in the middle attacks for 15 million calls. Now I'm talking about a day only. This is the level of complexity, this is the level of security that needs to be ensured when you're dealing with telecom service providers. Now let's get back to this specific slide, 5G and network virtualization. Now 5G is the fifth generation of telecom networks, as we all know. In this fifth generation of networks, the the pace and the capability of the communication has exponentially increased. And which with this advent, the security risk and all those factors have also increased. Now, earlier there were some hardwares that were supposed to communicate with each other, but now it is more on the software-defined networks. The softwares are deciding how the communication will take place. The softwares are deciding how the entire ecosystem is going to be secured. Same in cloud and edge security. Earlier, we only had the on-premises hard data centers. Now it is distributed all across the cloud. So ensuring where the data is, how to secure it, the edge computing, ensuring where the data is residing, how it is being used by the user, it is way difficult from what we had earlier. Then specifically IoT and connected devices. During my research, I came across one of her research papers in which it was specifically explaining how IoT devices are compromised, and when you compromise an IoT device, you actually make it do things that it should not do. For example, if a windmill or a electric generation power plant gets compromised, it will ultimately stop functioning. So this is where the security of these OT environments come into effect. Lastly, these APIs and digital services right now in the banking sectors and in the fintech environment, there is a concept of open finance. There is a concept of digital banking. Everything relies completely on communication and technology. Securing all those things, and majority of the things are API driven. So securing all those things are now the most important factor that the chief information security officers are that is actually keeping the chief information security officers awake all nights. So yeah, that is my take on that. Yeah, there's
Thank you.
one
That's
thing
great.
mentioned in this slide, in the last part. One principle connects all four. Verify every identity, minimize trust, segment critical environments, and continuously monitor activity. Well, this line actually summarizes the entire thing. What is required to be done?
Thank you,
Uh,
Faizan. Appreciate it.
yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, moving forward on Saudi cybersecurity and data governance, I would want to add a few topics here, and would want Mr. Osama's guidance on that as well, because Mr. Osama had many decades of experience in cybersecurity, technology risk advisory, and cloud and AI and all those aspects. So when it comes to specifically to the Saudi element, uh, the regulators, the regulatory requirement, and the technology environment. What do you see? Is there a difference in Saudi, or it is more or less the same as the other GCC countries?
That's actually a really good question, Faizan. Now,
Mhm.
I have been exposed to telcos. It's been quite some time since I've been, but I have been keeping abreast of what's happening. And I
Mhm.
think telcos across the GCC have a lot of similarities. And by the way, not only similarities, but you have actually operators. So, for example, we have Ooredoo today is actually a Qatari-based telco, but they're operating in
Mhm.
Kuwait. Same thing goes for STC. So I think they are very much interconnected, and the governing structure for these telcos has made it like sort of a mesh of governance structure. And there is a lot of similarities that you'll find. There are, of course, differences because the regulators require different things. But if you look at the complexity, if you ask me where the complexity is coming from, it's actually coming from the new architecture. It's coming, and so 5G is in Kuwait, for example, and this means with this new architecture that there is a new attack path. If you look at cloud and edge security, for example, you have distributed workloads, which means your risk is distributed, and that it's going to be far more difficult for you to manage the risk now, and that you need a little bit more throughput to be able to manage it. And the same thing goes for IoT and connected devices, because now you have massive scale with uneven security maturity. So that unevenness is going to cause a lot of complexity, and therefore it's going to require a lot of effort in order to make sure that you address it properly. And when you come, for example, to digital services, connectivity creates both value, but it also creates exposure. So if you want to be out there, yes, there's a lot of benefits to it, but it introduces a lot of risk that you're going to have to be ready to either mitigate, transfer, or accept. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your answer. Let's move forward with the Saudi cybersecurity and data governance. When it comes to specifically the Saudi cybersecurity and data governance, there are three specific regulators or entities that we come across. Now, it's not just about the telecommunication; it is about each and everything, because I had been working in Saudi for quite a long time now, and with multiple organizations, starting from a cloud service provider to a bank to fintechs, so multiple organizations. And more or less, everybody is connected to CST, NCA, or Sadaya in any form. Now, if you allow me, I'll just guide my audiences slightly on CST, NCA, and Sadaya, and then definitely we can go forward towards the question. CST, the Communication Space and Technology Telecommunications Authority, is specifically for the communications that has been established within the kingdom. NCA is National Cybersecurity Authority that provides the framework for implementation of the cybersecurity, and Sadaya is the Saudi Digital and AI Authority, which specifically deals on the data and AI platforms. Moving towards the question, sir, how do you think that these regulators are performing, and how much emphasis or how much strictness they have ensured in providing their regulations in Saudi?
Faizan, to be completely honest with you, I am not really a good fit to specifically answer this question about the regulators in Saudi, because I really don't know how well they are performing in Saudi.
Mhm.
I'm going to pick your brain on this one if you don't mind, but I will tell you
Yeah, yeah.
this. In Kuwait, until this very day, we do not have proper laws that govern the use of AI, for example. What is, the privacy use when you use AI? For example, even when you're using your mobile device, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, what is considered a violation of, privacy. All of this I think, is going to come. So I think as we mature, I think the governing and the lawmaking authorities will realize that there is an increasing need to have regulation and to have proper control for not just cybersecurity, I think, but I think generally speaking for any kind of infrastructure device or an apparatus that uses AI, whether it's generative or otherwise. So with that, I think I'd love to hear, since you're expert in Saudi market, I'd love to hear from you. Who governs what and how well they're doing it.
Okay, thank you for sharing the stage. CST, like I told you, is the Telecommunications and the Communication Space and Technology Authority. It has given us cybersecurity regulatory framework, having like 215 or something like that controls, multiple core domain areas it covers, and it is primarily focused on the telecommunication network and those fields. When it comes to NCA is National Cybersecurity Authority. They have done a tremendous, amazing job. They have provided ECC, Essential Cybersecurity Controls, CCC, Cloud Cybersecurity Controls, and operational technology cybersecurity controls. So they have made it very easy for everybody to understand what domain you are into and what exactly are the controls that are applicable on you. So, for example, if for essential cybersecurity controls, there are the basics. They are essential for everybody. Cloud cybersecurity controls, if you are a cloud service, you are obtaining cloud service or you are a cloud service provider, it definitely applies on you. Now, the third entity, Sadaya, SDAIA, has done a tremendous job in the data and AI sector. What I
Uh,
believe is in the GCC market, Saudi is actually leading very fast in the data, its security, the laws, the PDPL is very strict, And while I'm supporting my clients in implementation of the PDPL, it actually makes me very in a difficult position because there are too many controls that are required to be implemented. They have provided an NDMO, National Data Management Office, which has explicitly defined a data management complete framework. And that framework is huge. It has 15 domains with a tremendous amount of controls. And fulfilling that controls is, if somebody, if an entity fulfills that control, it is actually more stringent than the Global Gender Data Protection Regulations, GDPR, in EU. I would definitely say that.
Oh, okay.
And when it comes to the implementation of AI part, definitely they have explicitly mentioned about the guardrails, the risks, and because we have been supporting many organizations in achieving ISO 42000 word certification, which is AIMS, I have seen the maximum requirement of implementation of AIMS in Saudi across GCC. They are too much focused on data, they are too much focused on AI, and they want to ensure that their AI is adequately implemented and secured. So this is what I have seen. Now these are some of the governance expectations in the slide that telecom operators should make sure. Now this is just a summary of from all the regulators that I'll go through one by one, and I would want Mr. Osama's support in that. So one, the very first thing is governance and accountability. This is the very basic. If governance and accountability are the two words that can be used as synonyms as well. If you have governance, you have accountability. If you do not have governance, you cannot have accountability. Moving forward, risk-based security. The organizations that do not have risk-based security are actually working on the security without knowing what they actually want to secure. If first, the very first concept of security is to identify the risk that is to your organization. Otherwise, you're just trying to secure something that you do not even want to secure or do not even have to secure. Next is identity and access control. Very simple concept. Only those people should have the access who are authorized, who should be authenticated. Number four, monitoring and incident management. This is the very core concept of cybersecurity, without which it cannot even function. If I'm not monitoring the cyberspace of my organization and I am not capable enough to respond to an incident, then maybe I have a security function, but it is not fulfilling the job. Data protection, we have already discussed. Saudi have stringent PDPL controls laws that everybody has to abide by. By the way, I have seen in Saudi that they have started to put penalties also. In other GCC countries, I have not seen penalties on organizations. In Saudi, I have seen penalties for violating the laws. Third party security, this is the bare minimum because whenever you are connected with multiple entities, every organization is connected. Whenever you are connected with multiple entities, their security flaws eventually become your security flaws. Even if you have tremendous amount of security on all three fronts, people, process, and technology, if your outsourced vendor is not secure enough and you're sharing the data and you're communicating with them, it does not fulfill. For
Right.
business continuity, Mr. Osama, if you want to share some light on business continuity part.
Yeah, I mean, business continuity, I think across the board, I think if you look at any GCC, by the way, all the expectations here in this specific slide, if you look at it, it's, I think, very universal. Because I think, we have, for example, in the GCC, you have equal bodies, governing bodies that would require and regulate the operation of telcos. And business continuity is again is a very big subject. Is what happens, in case of a disaster. How is the business going to operate? And this is where I think maintaining your essential services based on your RPOs and RTOs must be defined in order to ensure that your business operations aren't affected during a disaster. And this goes for, I think, telcos, goes for banks, it goes for any large enterprise where there's a huge customer touch point. Evidence and insurance is, again, ensuring that you have a record of everything and testing your evidence and ensuring that you have a mechanism for continuous improvement. And of course, just very quickly, part of business continuity, I think one of the most important things when it comes to business continuity is making sure that your disaster recovery procedures, policies, and your tabletop exercises are done and performed in accordance with your organization's schedule to make sure that you are in fact ready. So I've seen a lot of organizations do this as a tick, like a tick in the box, just to make sure that when the auditors come in, that they are ready and they get the certification and all okay to proceed. Now that is something you can do. It's going to cost you money to do that, but it's going to cost you a lot more if you don't do your exercise and you don't actually simulate those disasters moving forward. So I think this is something personally I take very seriously, even at the personal level. So I make sure all the home systems are redundant and tested and properly monitored. So you need to take that and apply to the bigger picture in your organization.
Perfect,
So
sir. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so let's move towards the next part, which is threat detection and incident response. Now, like I said earlier as well, these are the core concepts of security. If you do not have the adequate threat detection mechanism and you do not know how to respond to an incident, then the security team, even if you have the best people and technology, but you do not have the process, it altogether fails the purpose. So in threat detection and incident response, sir, I would want you to highlight or guide us that how should a mature organization, regardless of Saudi, it's a global question now. Said
yeah.
how should a mature organization ensure that they are up to they fulfill the requirement of threat detection and they are capable of incident response?
That's actually a very critical question and a very important one to answer. Now, the detection response gap is happens when you have traditional security operations. Okay, and before actually we delve into answering the question, I have seen some very sophisticated incident response teams, and I've seen some very rudimentary ones. And there isn't really one right answer for what should your incident response team look like. But there are some basic constituents I think that are important to have. So for example, you should always have a war room established when there is, for example, a P1 incident, or you call it maybe P0, which is the highest criticality. So you should have a war room, and that war room should then focus, bring all the involved parties and make sure on how to actually identify and contain, this specific incident. Don't think yet of the solution. Think of how to contain it first. Then think of how you can address that particular threat and close the gap, isolate the problem. And once you have the resolution, it's very important that you also get to the root cause of that problem to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So from the traditional security perspective, you'll find that there are high volume of security alerts. There's manual investigation and triage, which can take a lot of time, and fragmented data across security tools. So you have Qualys here, you have SOC, you have, I don't know, NOC, you have all these logs, you have SIEM, you have Carbon Black, you have Red Clock, you have all sorts of systems giving you different data. But this data doesn't mean anything if you don't really put it into context. And this becomes very difficult to manage in large organizations because the amount of data is humongous. Role-based detection also misses new behavior. So you need something a little bit more sophisticated. Response depends heavily on the analyst capacity and knowledge. So if you just envisage having an AI-enabled security operations, you will have prioritized alerts based on risk and context, faster investigation, correlated insights, behavioral and anomaly-based threat detection, automated support for containment and response. So you can definitely take the same practices that you have built, which are the traditional practices, but then you actually take AI and you enhance, automate, and enrich the capabilities of your security operations to safeguard your organization. So if we look at the cyber incident response and recovery lifecycle, it is number one is where you prepare, you detect, you analyze, you contain, you recover, and then you improve. So the effective response is going to link to the technical containment with service continuity, communication, and recovery decisions.
So only one question I had on the previous topic.
Yeah.
What is your suggestion? Should the threat detection and incidents response, it should be completely automated or completely human centric, or a joint AI plus human, a joint kind of a concept? What is your suggestion?
Yeah. So again, I've been saying this probably since yesterday in our
Yeah,
generative AI webinar. Human oversight is not optional. And I don't think that anything that is AI related today, I don't think that the human oversight is optional. The human oversight is absolutely required. So whatever you do, no matter how much you enhance your operations with AI, you need to define gates. And those gates, at every critical gate, there needs to be a human oversight. So you can give largely, a lot of the security operations, by the way, you can outsource it to your AI. And there's nothing wrong with that because it's faster. But you have to have very uh, uh, you have to have numerous various gates at the important decision points for the human eye to verify and make sure, yes, the AI is making or giving me at least the right options, and that it is not hallucinating, for example, that my guardrails are being followed, and that it's giving me the right decision in order to proceed. I think the latter of the options that you've mentioned, Faizan, is the way to go. It's a hybrid sort of
hybrid.
setup that I recommend.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that detailed answer. Moving forward towards the part number five, operational resilience. So the question is very simple on this part.
Yeah.
Now, the telecom service providers or the networks is not only about the communication or the calls. It is about emergencies. It is about ambulances calling. It is about police. It is about everything. Now, how do you think a telecom service provider or any organization should focus on their operational resilience, keeping what as critical and keeping what as not that much critical? How do you think? What should be the focus?
Okay. Um, so if we look at the cyber incident, when you look at the entire continuum of cyber incident
Mhm.
to service disruption, the objective is not only to stop the attack. It is to protect your critical services delivery, and you want to recover safely, obviously. So when you have a cyber event, you need to first have an impact assessment, the technology impact, what systems, networks, functions, applications, or data become degraded or unavailable. Then you need to look at the service impact. So how has this disrupted your customers, whether it's communication or operational services? And then you need to look at, your financial. Did you actually lose any money? Was there any, reputational damage? And finally, it becomes, the resilience response becomes containing, maintaining, and prioritizing, recovering, and communicating with the various stakeholders. But also what's very important is the lessons learned. So what do we learn from this specific cyber incident? Now, I have been involved in a very large cyber incident back in the day. Unfortunately, I cannot disclose the specifics, but that specific cyber incident was one that had really followed all of these five pillars, from the cyber incident to service disruption to actually the lessons learned in the end. And there were, during that, it was actually before the widespread AI advancements. But what I have personally learned through those incidents is that the lessons learned in the end is an absolute necessity. Whenever you have an incident, whether large or small, always have that last session. Bring all your team in and discuss the exact root cause, what was disrupted, why it was disrupted, and what we could have done better to reduce the overall disruption on our customers. And this is really, what's going to build your experience and making you more resilient and more ready to face any, major cyber incidents. So if we look at the operational resilience framework for telcos, it always begins like with, for example, business continuity, right? With identifying your critical services. But not only identifying your critical services, but you should also say how critical they are relative to one another. So you need to have their priorities listed. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 in that manner. You need to map all the dependencies, whether the dependency is a technology, is a process, or it's people. You need to set your recovery objectives. Obviously, your RPOs, your RTOs, what is an acceptable threshold for, a specific emergency or for a specific disruption. And, when should I recover and at what point should I recover my data, for example? Then you need, once you have those 3 pillars in place, that's when you can start really building the resilience. So you need to design the redundancy, secure architecture, you back up on alternate capabilities. And by the way, Faizan, if you look at this, what you're seeing here from point 1 to point 6, this is something, by the way, that a lot of people are starting to now do inside their own homes. So if you look at the way homes are being built, so on the electricity, they build it on 3 phases, right? So the main cable, electricity cable, has 3 circuits feeding the house. So if one goes, you still have 2. At the very top in the house, you always have multiple water pumps. So if one fails, you have another one. You have 2 big tanks for water reservoirs. And this thinking has really now become the business continuity, and the operational resilience is something that we actually see in our everyday life. And of course, this would be ineffective if you don't really test it. And this is what I talked about a little earlier in the webinar, that you need to validate the responses. Your BCP plan is worth nothing if you don't really put it to the test. And when I mean a test, do it right. Call your CEO and tell them, look, I want to do an exercise where I want to simulate something that close to real cybersecurity attack on the organization. And I want to really see how the organization responds. I want to invoke my business continuity incident response. And I want to see that whatever we put on paper actually works. And we have done this. I have had the pleasure of working with one of the most proficient and skilled people in business continuity, a guy by the name of Nisar Khan. Maybe you guys know him. And Nisar has actually made this happen at Kuwait Finance House. We actually run proper incidents, different kinds of incidents like fire and any sort of incident. But I think for telcos now, and specifically for cyber, I think you need to do this, and you need to do it at scale, and it needs to be next to real. So it needs to be very, very close to what would happen in real life. And don't tell anyone that this is unreal until you reach the lessons learned stage. That's where you can actually let people know that they can, breathe, take a breather, and that this was a staged attack, for example. And of course, we have to learn and improve from those mistakes and those incidents in order to strengthen our position and our security posture, and make sure that the organization is able to really work under any circumstances. So that really takes me to, I think maybe we talked a little bit about it, the distinction between business continuity and disaster recovery. They're different but connected. And often people actually use the terms interchangeably. Now, disaster recovery is a subset of the biggest or the bigger business continuity program. Disaster recovery is all about systems, is about backup, alternate infrastructure, whether you want to have it active or active passive. This is all to do with disaster recovery, is how you're going to restore your technology systems and at which point you are going to recover them. And what is your threshold for having any of these systems unavailable? The business continuity focuses on the critical services and the operation during the disruption. So it's not necessarily the IT part only, but it's how your chief executive acts. It's your war room. Who establishes the war room? Who's in the war room? Who's going to act what? Who are your champions, your business continuity champions that will be directing people, for example, to leave the building without making, a huge fuss when there is a fire alarm, for example. Or recently, of course, you've seen the recent events in the Gulf with everything that's going on. The business continuity has become increasingly important in this part of the world. And this is really the time that we should invest in both our resources and the time in order to make sure that we have a very sound, very effective business continuity program that really can safeguard not just the organizational assets in terms of material assets, but also the human assets. So I hope I've addressed the question, Faizan, to your liking.
Yeah. So the question actually entertained each and every part. The answer, sorry, actually entertained each and every part of my question, and you told the entire framework. In just, I would say, in the 5 minutes, it was the entire framework how the business continuity should actually function, what are the requirements, and when you gave the example that the business continuity manager, should reach out to CEO directly and ask to conduct the activities. So that is a bold step. Not every organization is able to do, but that is the right step that should be taken. Moving forward, future ready telecom security. Sir, what do you suggest? What do you believe? That how can the telecom service providers, not just the telecom service providers, because it will become very generic, the the organizations altogether to ensure the security in their operations?
Yeah, I think a future-ready telecom security, the strongest security programs will have to combine, architecture, operations, governance, and resilience. You cannot really have one or the other. I think it's their collective power is what really makes your program work. So secure by design. So your 5G and your cloud infrastructure has to be secured by design. Your AI augmented SOC, yes, you can use AI to improve visibility, prioritize, and analyze productivity, but always ensure that you have human oversight. The identity-centric security applies zero trust without a doubt, strong privileged access and continuous verification. This is key to your success when it comes to future-ready telco security. Resilient critical services is also important, designing the redundancy recovery around essential telecom services. Supply chain visibility is also critical. Understanding the dependencies would strengthen, your partnership network and third-party assurance, and of course, integrated governance. So connect your cyber, telecom, privacy, AI, and resilience responsibilities. This is key to the success. And if you have all of these 6 ingredients into your program, I think you will have one of the strongest programs that combines everything you need. Like we said, you need the secure architecture, you need intelligent operations, and you need governance and resilience. So practical priorities maybe for Saudi telecom operators, and I think this is probably for all operators, is first, know what is critical. This is very key. The second, you want to make sure that you reduce the preventable exposure where possible, harden your configurations, identities, vulnerabilities, and third-party access. Need to know basis, right? So you need to apply the most basic security principles in order to prevent unnecessary exposure. Improve the visibility. This is another very important thing. Centralize your telemetry through your network, IT, cloud, and security environments. Apply AI where it adds value. Now, this is very important, Faizan. Apply AI where it adds value. So AI can be used in a lot of places, but there are some places where it does not add value. And you should be very careful about, because the adoption of AI has always been linked with business value. There needs to be a correlation between the value that you get and the use of AI. So it's very important that you make that distinction. Govern the automation. Set human approval boundaries for high impact security actions. And this is again something we have been saying in almost every slide today. Human interaction approval, human oversight, human verification, that is very key to the success. And it needs to be on the top of your priorities for any sort of security program, whether you're, by the way, whether you're a telco or you're another organization. And of course, we need to exercise resilience. How do you do this? You need to test your cyber response, your BCP, your DR, your crisis coordination, all together. You need to make sure that all of them work together and that they work in harmony and they lead to the desired result. Now, the key takeaway is from all of this, Faizan, is that cybersecurity and resilience are inseparable. The AI should augment security teams. Telecom security must be environment specific, and regulatory responsibilities must connect all the dots together. Resilience is proven through testing. This is key to your success.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for a wonderful session. It was very, very energetic as well as knowledgeable. We have few questions from few of the participants. Mr. Abdul Rahman has asked, how can we prevent powerful AI tools from some bad persons or any work which is illegal? Mr. Osama, if you would like to answer that.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. I think we kind of touched on this a little bit, and I think there is a shared responsibility between the providers of AI model. So that is one. So we need to sort of ask for the protection from the providers themselves. That's one. Two, you need to make sure that you have the guardrails and the proper security infrastructure within your organization to make sure that you are protected. There isn't anything specific that you can do to prevent, a malicious person with a malicious intent to use AI. But you need to be sure and ready that when it does happen, that you're ready to deal with it. So I think knowledge is very important for you to safeguard yourself. You need to understand how the AI models work in order to prevent somebody with malicious intent to cause harm. Can we stop people? We really cannot, but you can do just as much to protect yourself as much as they can do to try and to damage you. That would be my answer.
Perfect, sir. There is one more question, and then
Yes.
we can wind it up. The question is from Mr. Kamaluddin. Can we use agentic AI to oversee cybersecurity? That's one part. Then it is further going on. If so, then where it can fit in the operational lifecycle from prepare to contain slash improve. Where can we actually add agentic AI in cybersecurity?
Right. That's actually a really, really good question. And I'm glad Mr. Kamal has asked this question. Look, agentic AI is a different beast on its own. Okay. And I've seen agentic AI works in specific use cases where it performs really well. For example, in human resources, it works very, very well. It writes the rubric, it does the job description, it even interviews the candidates, shortlist them based on your ATS, and then it even posts, the job openings to LinkedIn or, Job Monster, whatever those recruitment sites. In security, in cybersecurity, I have also seen agentic AI working very, very well when it comes to the internal network. So detecting anomalies within your network traffic, doing quick configurations, doing full assessments. But what's very important to make sure your agentic AI can work properly is the human oversight. Always design, even if you have the most powerful models working, even if it's just on-prem, and you are very sure that there will be no, for example, attacker from the external organization coming in. Always make sure that you design with the human oversight gate in mind. I've seen, by the way, one of the organizations that I have been working with in the very recent future has built a complete agentic AI for their security operations. And their agentic AI actually takes the golden image of the workstations, and then it checks it with the master golden image. It installs, XDR and, carbon blacks and, red clocks of the world, and it makes everything ready and deploys the machine on the network. It does all of that on its own. But there is an important gate that there is actually a human in the very last step before the machine or the workstation is deployed on the network. That's when the human goes and verifies everything before it goes. So to answer the question directly, I think it can be used, but you need to be very careful to build the proper guardrails for one, because also you don't want people inside the organization to inject any malicious activities there, and make sure that there is a human oversight as well.
Okay, sir, just last question, because definitely we have you in this session, a very senior person. For the young generation, well, this is a question from Mr. Kamaluddin, but I would take it on myself as well, because I would want to learn from you as well. The question is, what capabilities should young professionals and existing cybersecurity practitioners build or should build to stay effective in this environment where AI is changing both the ways, the cybersecurity and the working of the organization? This answer will actually guide me as well in my future path as well. So please.
Well, maybe for the youngsters, I'll begin with that. And I'm not sure what age group you were targeting, but as a father, I will tell you that I would want, my children to learn AI, but to learn responsible AI, and use AI in ways to further and strengthen their education. I have found that AI is an extremely useful tool for gaining knowledge, for studying. It teaches you how to study properly. But what I do not want them to do is to rely on the AI to do the work for them. See, one of the things that have made me very successful throughout my career is, and I always tell this to all my teams, I will never ask any member of my team to do something that I cannot do myself with my own hands. And that is a fact. And it has been the fact for a very long time. And that's how you actually, that's I think one of the important things that we teach the youngsters, especially in this age, is that make sure you know how to do it, even if it's not something that you physically do like carpenting or building, but make sure that you actually know how to write an email on your own. Don't always rely on the AI to do it for you. Do not cancel your brain. Your brain, the AI is actually trying to mimic the human brain. So it's not you trying to mimic the AI. The AI is trying to mimic you. So that would be my advice for the youngsters. Yes, use AI, use it responsibly, use it to learn how to speed things up for yourself. Use it to learn how to educate yourself, maybe how to study in a better way, and you make better use of your time. But do not rely completely and 100% on AI to do everything for you, because that's going to have detrimental effect on your attainment of knowledge. Now, for cybersecurity experts moving forward, and I think one of the things that I would really recommend for cybersecurity experts to do, or cybersecurity practitioners to do, is to the knowledge, the cycle of knowledge and the education never stops. So you need to always stay on top of the latest models, with the latest threats, with the latest heuristics, strategies, because that's what's going to make you, a good cybersecurity person. In fact, what I would recommend is for you to learn how to become a really good hacker. Because if you know all the strategies and how the hacking or the devious mind thinks, I think that is going to give you the upper hand on being able to really safeguard your organization. I know there is something called ethical hacking, but I think you need to go a little bit beyond that. You need to really delve into it and really act like a serious attacker and see how, what damage can be done. Understanding the impact also can help you understand what needs to be done. So I think always wear different hats, and may God bless you all. And hopefully you don't need to, deal with such situations. It's been really a very pleasant couple of days. It's been my complete privilege to have met you, Mr. Kamal, and you, Mr. Fazan. I've really enjoyed being with you guys those last couple of days, and I'm ready to take any other questions if there are any.
Yes, sir. But in the interest of time, we have already taken a lot of time and we are slightly beyond the time limit. I'll just wind up. Like you said, that the person should know how to do the hacking to become a cybersecurity professional. Same like if you do not know how a thief thinks, you will never become a good police officer.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so that's the mindset that is required. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Osama. That
Thank
would
you.
be all from our side. Mr. Kamaluddin, any words from your side, please?
No, thank you, Faizan, and really, Mr. Osama, it was an excellent session, actually, because, it gives really a good insight how to approach cybersecurity, how to prepare ourselves. And you just covered all the topics related to cybersecurity in general and specific to telecom, which is very much essential in this era. Thank you, Osama Abdullah, and also HAFO team. It is really a wonderful session.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone, attendees.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. Salam.
Assalamu alaikum.